Hey everybody, welcome to the lesson here at THSS Technology. Today we're going to keep moving on our game here and we're going to add some more functionality to our enemies. So current state of the game, we got our Super Soaker 50 shooting away. We got a little goat down there that hurts you if you hit it, but if you bounce on its head, it kills you. So we did that lesson a few weeks ago. And today what I wanted to add is a moving enemy. Now we've done moving platforms before, as you can see, and the platform is moving, no problem, and we control that through animations. But I want to show you guys a different way to do moving platforms today using raycasting. So let's get started. Now, unfortunately, if we want to do some recasting, we're actually going to have to recreate our enemy. So right now our goat that we made, we based it off our rigid body 2D, which works for this type of enemy, but we need to make an enemy that's able to better detect floors and walls. So we're going to have to build our enemy from our character body 2D. So let's go about that here. So I'm going to create a new scene. It's going to be based on another node, and it's going to be a character body 2D. And we'll just call this patrolling goat. Okay. Now let's add our animated sprite 2D on that. Let's click on animated sprite. Let's go to animations. Let's create new sprite frames. Click down here. We're going to open it up. Go to my arts folder. There's my billy goat enemy. And put this down to 1 on the vertical. And I believe this is 66. Nope. 68 on the horizontal. And select my first 9 frames. Perfect. Nope. There we go. Add 9 frames. Excellent. And we're going to put this up to 12 FPS. And then we're going to put the transform of its scale up to 2. Okay, so our goat's all set up here. And we're going to add a collision shape in real quick. All this is review, so we're just going to kind of blitz this a little bit quickly here. Okay, so we got our goat right there. And now we're going to add our area 2D onto the goat. And this is going to be our hitbox that's going to control when our players hit the upper or the lower half of it. So we did this lesson a few weeks ago. You can just watch that video if you want a little bit more clarification onto why and how we are kind of doing this here. And let's save our scene here into the scenes folder. Perfect. And let's add a script onto that, which is going to be based on the character body 2D basic character script. Patrolling goat. All right. Okay, so we're not going to need any of this. We're not going to need our jump velocity there. We're going to change around a few of these things in a little bit here. But I'm going to want to add some functionality on my area 2D here. So we're going to do the body entered. Perfect. And this is what's going to control when the player is hitting it. So I'm quickly going to go back to my, my goat script here. This is the one that we did last class. And let's just put it back into there. Okay, so that'll kind of work as intended, and we have an older video on that if you want to go back and see how this is working and what it does. But now let's focus kind of on our patrolling goat here. Okay, we're going to change this to a variable, and we're using a variable as opposed to a constant. We're going to use a lowercase speed there, and we're going to put this at, I don't know, 50. I don't know how quick you want your enemies to move, but you can kind of adjust that as necessary. So we're wanting our goat here to move left and right kind of when it reaches the edge of the platform. I'm kind of envisioning it. It's going to be up on this platform up here. In fact, let's just throw him up there right now. There's our patrolling goat. And let's kind of put him on that platform there. Okay, perfect. So there's going to be our goat, and I want him to go kind of left and right on the screen. Every time he gets close to the edge, he's just going to turn around, flip his sprite, go to the other side. When he reaches this side, he'll flip his sprite and move back to the left. So that's kind of what we're hoping to build into our goat here. So what I need to do now is I need to put a bool in here, and we're going to call this, facing, let's see, how do we do facing right? Watched a really good video on this for Game Dev Night that helped me out with this. So facing right, we'll start by setting it false. Okay. Okay, that's looking good. And then over here in the physics process, let's give it a little bit of movement here. Okay, so let's drag this down and let's set our velocity.x equal to our speed. Okay, perfect, looking good. And let's just do a little test here. Now our goat is moving backwards, of course, and that's because the sprite is facing to the left, not to the right. So let's take our speed and let's make that a -50 instead. Let's see if that fixes it. There we go. Okay, that looks good. Our animation isn't playing right now, so let's sort this out here. Let's autoplay it. Try one more time. There goes our goat. And he is just kind of moving around. He's going to kind of get stuck in the corner. Okay, so we got the goat moving. It's looking good. Now we got to create a situation where he will flip. Okay, so let's add a custom function here. I'm just going to minimize that. We don't need that anymore. And let's add a new function. And we'll just call this flip. Nice and straightforward. We know what you're going to get with that. Okay, so when the flip function, oops, got to initialize it there. When the flip function gets initialized, what do we want to happen? Well, we want to take our facing right bool that we created at the top and essentially just make it the opposite. Okay, and when we use the exclamation point, that just changes it to the opposite. So if it's currently set to false, which it is, it'll then make it true. Okay, and then later on when it's true, it'll be now the facing right will be true, and then when it flips again, it'll go back to false, and it keeps going back to true, false, and that's what this little exclamation point is going to do. Okay, then what we're also going to do is we're going to take the scale on the x, so the scale on the x-axis, and we're going to make this into the negative, because if we flip the scale to a negative at the same size, it will face the opposite direction. So we're going to take the absolute value of the scale, okay, on the x, and then we're going to multiply it by -1. Okay, so regardless what the value is, if it's -1 or -1, it's going to take its absolute value, it's going to multiply by -1, which is going to change it around. Perfect. All right, liking that. And then let's keep this going here. So now we're going to say if you are facing right now, okay, so if you're facing the right, what do you want to happen? That's if it's true, of course. We're going to take our speed, and we're going to take the absolute value of our speed. Okay, so it's going to keep the negative into a positive there. And then let's do an else if you're not facing right, and then we'll take your speed and set it to the absolute value of speed, and you probably guessed it, times -1. Okay, which is going to then make sure our speed goes into the negative. Okay, so all this is doing here in the flip functionality, it's flipping your sprite on the x-axis, and it is adjusting your speed if you're facing right to the positive, meaning you're going to move to the right. Otherwise, it's going to times your speed, absolute value, which is going to make it a positive, times by -1, which is going to make you go towards the left. Okay, so everything's good for our flip function. Now we have to create a situation where we call that function. Okay, so we have to be able to call and initialize this flip function, which is going to cause us to change directions. And that's what we're going to have to add into our game. And we're going to do that with something called a Raycast. Okay, so I'm going to go to my patrolling goat there. I'm going to type in a Raycast 2D. The Raycast is this little downward arrow here. Okay, first of all, let's make this maybe a 35 or something like that. So it's going to be this point right here. So it's going to cast just below the goat's feet. Might be even go to a 30. No, 30 is a bit too low. Let's go to a nice 33. Perfect. And then we're going to take a Raycast and we're just going to move it to the left of the goat. So it's going to be checking if there is going to be ground below the goat's feet right here. Okay, so if it's checking for collisions directly in front of the goat's feet. So when he gets to the edge of a platform, it's going to see that there's going to be no ground in front of him, and it's going to flip to the other side, and then it'll walk this way, and so will the Raycast flip, and it's going to go back and forth, back and forth. All right, confusing? Play it around with a little bit, and it'll start to make some sense. Okay, so we have here doing our floor checks, and then we're going to say if, and we're going to take our Raycast here, we're going to drag our Raycast in. So if our Raycast dot is colliding, okay, so if it's colliding with something, and is on floor, okay? So what this is going to check for, let's pass this for now, this is going to check for if the Raycast is colliding with something and is on the floor. However, we want the opposite of this. I don't want my Raycast to be colliding, and I don't want it to be on the floor. Remember, because we're checking to see if there's no floor underneath it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this Raycast and we're going to inverse it once again with our exclamation point, which we did here on the facing right. Okay, so now if your Raycast is not colliding and it is not on the floor, what do you want to happen? Well, I want to run the flip function. Okay, this should work. Moment of truth. Let's see if it goes here. There's our goat. Looks like it's working pretty perfect. Awesome, going left and right, and when that Raycast is hitting the edge, it is flipping. And it still works. I can bump into it. We can ride it here. Obviously, there's a problem with the hitbox and this thing. Oh, there we go. It's kind of solved that problem there. I'll go back and debug that later. But it is moving left and right. We'll just have to fix that jumping on its head issue. But I will get to that in a little bit. Perfect. Okay. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and we will see you later.